Hello everyone, this is Soraya and I will be teaching you how to do multiple backgrounds using CSS. So first I'm just going to teach you how to add a background, and the first step is you're going to use this background image, and then you're just going to put the file for the picture that you want to use as the background. Then you can use the background position to say where you want it to start, and then you'll use background repeat to say whether you want to repeat it or not. So we'll go over here, and I've got a basic HTML file, so I'll open up the live preview, and I just have some basic CSS in here too. Very simple stuff. But I'm going to add some background to this. So I'm going to go back to my text editor and open up my CSS file right here. And since I want the background to cover the whole body, I'm going to start here. So first I'll use the background image property, and I'm going to use this parchment image that I have right here, and I have it optimized and all ready to use. And then I'll use the background position, and I want it to start at the top left. There's no hyphen or comma or anything there. And then I'm going to use well, let's take a look at this first. So it's repeating automatically. That is the default here. But if I were to put background repeat with no repeat, it would look something like this, where it would only have one of my small images. But since I want it to take up the whole background, I can either leave it without that, or I can just put repeat right here. And there we have it, covering the whole page. So the next step is to add another background. And to do that, we can just add it within the same properties. We just separate them with a comma. But we do have to pay attention, because the first one that you declare will be on top. So I have a little picture of a book to go with my best books file here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that one first, because I want that to go on top. So I'm going to do the same thing, URL, parentheses, but I'm going to choose this book background one. And then I'm going to add back in my parchment background with a comma in between. Now this one, I don't want it to take up the whole page because it's just a smaller image. So I'm going to put it in the bottom right, but this one I want still to do the same thing. So I want that one in the top left. And then here I don't want to repeat the book, so I'm going to put no repeat. And then repeat, because I want the parchment to repeat. Now we'll take a look at it, and as you can see, this is not what I was looking for. This one book picture is taking up my whole screen because I was naughty and I did not use my optimized image. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to show you how to size the background images. And we can just do that using background size. And you can use this with measurements or percentages just like you can with other things in CSS. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and put it at 800 pixels. But I liked what the other one was at, so I'm only going to style this first one. And we'll take a look at it over here. And now we can see that it's the right size that I wanted, but we're missing the parchment one. So if we go back over here and we look at it, you guys see what the problem is? I don't have the file type declared here, so we need to remember always to have the whole thing included there, which brackets will automatically give you the options for the first one, but the second one you have to make sure you type it out exactly how it's supposed to be. And then we'll take a look, and perfect, that is exactly what I wanted. So we'll go next to using background shorthand. So we don't have to declare all of the properties separately. Background does have a shorthand where we can put all of the information in one property. And it's just titled background. So we'll go over here and we're just going to delete all of this and see if we can put it into one single property. So we'll put that in background. And we'll just do the first one. We'll do the book background first. And then we wanted it at the bottom right. And then we wanted it to not repeat. And of course we wanted that at 800 pixels. And then we just separate the two with a comma and we can add in the other image, which was my parchment background image. And we wanted that at the top left and repeated. So let's take a look at that. And something went wrong here. Neither of them are showing up. And I'll tell you what happened is that we cannot put the background size in here. The shorthand is only for the file, the position, and whether or not you want to repeat. So if we just remove that, and then we add that as its separate property, then we'll take a look at that. And it's back to exactly how I wanted it, but it's taking up a lot less space in my code. So then, our next step is we're going to use the background size property a little bit more because there's more that we can do with it. We can contain the image, which will make it as big as possible while keeping the proportions, but it'll keep the entire image in the content area. Whereas cover will make it cover the entire content area even if some of the background image is lost. So we're going to play a little bit more with this parchment one. Now this works the same way as when we were stacking before, so we can just separate the information with commas. So I'm going to we're going to remove the repeat here so that we can see what's happening. And change it to no repeat. And then we're going to try using contain. And we're going to take a look and see it only takes up part of the page now because it made it as big as it can while covering the content area, but it doesn't cover the whole thing because it kept the proportions. But if we use cover, then it covers the entire page even though some of the image is lost. So something else we can use is background origin, which tells us where the background begins and where it goes from there. So padding box is the default, where it starts from the upper left corner of the padding, but we can also have it start from the upper corner of the border or the upper left corner of the content. So this is a little bit difficult to see when we have it covering the whole body. So I'm going to change this so it just covers the UL. So you can see the default, it covers the padding. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a border to the UL so that we can see that a little bit better. So we're going to go ahead and change this down here to, I'm going to keep the book one the same. So the default there, as we saw here, is the padding box. So I'm just going to keep that one at the default for the book. But for the parchment, we're going to play with that a little bit so that I can show you the differences here. So let's change it to content box. And here you can see it's only covering the content. It is no longer reaching out to the padding. And then we can change it to border box, and that fills in the inside of the border. So then there's this one more thing I have to show you. It's called the background clip, and it determines where the background is painted to. So it has some similar titles, but the default here is the border box. So we're going to go back here, and I'm going to change this to background clip. And here the default is border box. So we're going to once again keep the book background at the default. But we're going to change the parchment to content box. And once again, it's painting only where the content is. And then we can change it to padding box. And it fills in up to the padding. So these are the sources I use to find my information. This W3 Schools one is great. It has the tutorials as always. W3 Schools is awesome. That's where I got most of my information. This one will give you more information about how to make sure you're stacking the order correctly. But my favorite was when we had both of these at the default and with the cover background size attribute for the parchment and with no border and covering the whole body, because I like the parchment to cover the whole thing and make my entire website look like it's on paper because it is a book website. So there we go. That's how you use multiple backgrounds using CSS.